As a member of the Union for Reform Judaism, the synagogue arm of our North American Reform movement, Temple Emanu-El is also a proud constituent of the World Union for Progressive Judaism, the Reform movement globally. Many of the World Union's congregational rabbis assembled together just last month in Jerusalem for their annual gathering and then for the World Zionist Congress. It was an extraordinary week, convening Jews from all over the world, and a powerful reminder to each of us that we are a people with communities around the globe. Some of those communities, we know, experienced last century near annihilation, followed by repression, to the point where those who remained were forced underground, becoming, as Elie Wiesel called them, the Jews of silence. Rabbi David Maxa was born just after the fall of communism in Czechoslovakia. The son of Holocaust survivor and opera soloist Hynek Maxa, and the great-grandnephew of Rabbi Adolf Melian, a pre-war Czech Reform rabbi, Rabbi Maxa carries a deep personal commitment to memory, resilience, and renewal. Inspired by his roots, he pursued as an undergraduate Judaic and religious studies at Charles University in Prague. He came to the United States and taught at the Reform Movement's Summer Institute for High School Leadership. And then he enrolled in the Reform Rabbinical Seminary at the Abraham Geiger College at the University of Potsdam, which included a year in Jerusalem as well. After his ordination in 2020, Rabbi Maxa returned to the Czech Republic, marking an historic milestone as the first full-time Reform rabbi to serve in the country since World War II. He has since guided the progressive Jewish community Eitz Chaim in Prague, which he co-founded, and under his leadership, the congregation has grown to more than 250, becoming a vibrant center of Jewish life that continues to expand quickly. Beyond his work in Prague, Rabbi Maxa plays a key role in shaping progressive Judaism across the Czech Republic and Central Europe. Since 2021, he has chaired the Central European Beit Din, the Reform Rabbinical Court, serving Austria, the Czech Republic, Hungary, Poland, and Slovakia. In 2023, he was elected to the board of the World Union for Progressive Judaism, and he is an active member of the European Rabbinic Assembly, the European Union for Progressive Judaism, and the Central Conference of American Rabbis. Rabbi Maxa frequently addresses international audiences on topics of leadership, community regeneration, and the vital importance of strengthening the bonds among global Reform Jewish communities. He's met with numerous Jewish and interfaith leaders, including the late Pope Francis. A passionate and engaging speaker, Rabbi Maxa tells the remarkable story of the revival, resilience, and renewal of Jewish life in the Czech Republic and across Central and Eastern Europe, a story of rebuilding faith and community where it was nearly extinguished, a story we look forward to hearing tonight. Please welcome Rabbi David Maxa.
Shabbat Shalom. I feel deeply honored to stand before you this evening, this Shabbat evening at Temple Emanu-El, a place where I find myself for the very first time, but still already from this moment very dear to my heart. And let me begin with a small spoiler. I come from Prague, and no, I haven't found Maharal's golem yet. Although, believe me, as rabbi of a start-up Jewish community, I am still trying. I am here thanks to the kind invitation from your Rabbi Joshua Davidson, whom I deeply admire, as a globally respected Reform Jewish leader, visionary, steadfast voice for Jewish dignity, community, dialogue, and a great rabbi. I would like to thank him and his colleagues for the honor of inviting me and spending this Shabbat evening with you at your gorgeous synagogue. I would also like to warmly greet all of you who are here in person, as well as those who are joining us online, including members of my community in Prague, although it is almost after midnight, or it is after midnight. Shabbat Shalom to Prague as well. This past week, we commemorated 87 years since Kristallnacht, the night of broken glass, which was a night of terror and destruction. In the whole area ruled by Nazi Germany, including some regions of Czechoslovakia, over 100 synagogues were set ablaze. More than 7,000 Jewish businesses were destroyed, and Jewish homes, hospitals, and schools were looted. Over 30,000 Jewish men were arrested and deported to concentration camps. More than 91 were murdered, and countless others were humiliated and tortured. It was a dark prelude to the horrors of the Shoah that followed and resulted in 6 million murdered Jews. Allow me to share with you one particular memory, a memory about destruction, and yet also a spark of hope that somehow found its way to grow and fill my life with miracles. Let me take you to Prague of my childhood in the mid-1990s. When I was born, my father was almost 68 years old. My father's age often led us into strange and sometimes even amusing situations in which passers-by, unaware of our family circumstances, thought that the old man accompanying the little boy was his grandfather. My father didn't take it well, and these situations were always funnier when my nephew, who is a year older than me, joined us in our walk. He liked to call me uncle, even though I was 2 heads shorter than him at the time. However, my father's age was not the only strange thing in my family. I realized that he was not only peculiar because of his age. When I was 4 years old, on a chilly autumn afternoon, when we went to visit the New Jewish Cemetery in Prague. It is the resting place of countless Prague Jews, including my own ancestors. Franz Kafka is buried there too, which I mention because in Prague, Kafka is like a silent partner in every story. Barely visible, but somehow always influencing the mood. I remember that late autumn afternoon vividly. The cold, the wet leaves covering every path, the quiet of the old stones standing like witnesses. I was amazed by the inscriptions on the gravestones in a strange font I have never seen before. My father tried to find the grave of his grandfather, David Melion, after whom I was named. But every turn looked the same, and dusk came quickly. We eventually gave up and went to the grave of David's brother Wilhelm instead, placed our pebble stones there, and walked back toward the gate, which turned out to be locked. No one was there, and we were completely alone. We stood there, trapped inside the cemetery. No cell phones, no way out. I was convinced with the certainty only a 4-year-old can possess that my great-grandfather was punishing us for not finding his grave. The silhouettes of tombstones in the darkness suddenly looked very frightening. We shouted for help. People walking by the cemetery gate ignored us. After an hour, an eternity for a small child, a lady finally promised to call the police. 2 officers climbed over the massive cemetery wall, breathing heavily, just as a gatekeeper appeared, jangling an enormous key and shouting, "Why didn't you ring the bell? I've been sitting in my office the whole time." He opened the gate, and we were free. As far as my first Jewish memory goes, unforgettable. A perfect blend of absurdity, tragedy, humor, and survival. Franz Kafka would have been proud. Only years later did I realize that this moment, opening the gates of the cemetery, became the leitmotif of so many chapters of my life that were yet to come. After that night, I began asking questions. Why were so few of my family members buried there? What happened to the others? And one day, my father took me to the Pinkas synagogue, whose walls are covered with 80,000 names of Czech Jews murdered in the Shoah. He showed me the names of our family members and pointed especially at one name, Karolina Melion. My grandmother Karolina was murdered in Terezín, he told me. Tears filled my eyes and I was unable to speak. After a while, when I regained my voice, I looked at my father questioningly and said, "Why?" "Because they were Jewish." He replied with such strange matter-of-factness in his voice that it took my breath away. We didn't talk much on the rest of the day. We walked silently back home, and I wondered how it was possible that someone could be deprived of their life for who they were. When I was 11, my father passed away, but I did not stop asking questions about him, about our family, about our tradition. I was hungry to bring the tradition back into my life, the tradition that was almost forgotten, that was not to be talked about as was the situation during communist times. The very first Jewish holiday I ever attended, thanks to a family friend, was a Pesach Seder. And that evening was a miracle. How fitting. A holiday about opening the gate of the cemetery of Mitzrayim, of Egypt, and walking toward life. I later discovered that my great-granduncle, Rabbi Adolf Melion, had been a pre-war Reform rabbi in Czechoslovakia. And when someone asked if I might consider becoming one too, I took my time. I then said yes, motivated by attending a biennial conference of our global extended Jewish family of the World Union for Progressive Judaism, and also my amazing summer that I spent as a teacher at the URJ Kutz Camp here in New York. But it was clear to me that if I became a rabbi, I had to return home. I chose a path that was anything but easy, to revive Reform Judaism that once flourished in my country and was the strongest Jewish movement before the war, but unfortunately was nearly extinguished by Nazis and communists, which brought fear, trauma, and stigma. But on the way, I encountered many miracles. My dream became to materialize when 5 years ago, still during my rabbinical studies, we founded Etz Chaim, the tree of life. We began with exactly nothing. No building, no Torah scroll, no office. Just a small group of dreamers in a city where Jewish life had been nearly wiped out twice in 1 century. But today, 5 years later, through the tireless work of our board, led by our founding chairperson, Anna Noskova, we have grown from 0 to 250 members just in 5 years, becoming the fastest growing Jewish community in our city and country. We have built and are building a safe and welcoming spiritual home for Jews of every background, for those who were raised in Jewish life and for those who are only now discovering their Jewish roots. They can do so in an atmosphere of warmth and openness, without fear, without judgment, and with the freedom to ask every question that arises on their journey. Our community is overflowing with singing children, sometimes even too much aloud, inspiring teaching and learning, love for Israel, for Yiddishkeit, and deep communal support. In a partnership with the World Union for Progressive Judaism, we are also strengthening Jewish presence and leadership across Central Europe. We have reached thousands through our public programs, from Hanukkah concerts and interfaith dialogues to heritage initiatives. And one of the most meaningful was our partnership with Memorial Scrolls Trust to dedicate a rescued Czech Torah scroll for permanent display in the Czech parliament. It is now the only parliament in the world, aside from Knesset, to publicly display a Torah scroll. This historic gesture stands as a powerful symbol of friendship between the Czech nation and the Jewish people, and of the renewed commitment to Jewish life in our country. And I'm very glad that 2 representatives of Memorial Scrolls Trust are with us also this evening, Andrew Keane, the vice chair of the organization, and Lois Roman, one of the trustees. And currently, our community is striving toward establishing our permanent home, our own synagogue and community center. A community that did not exist 5 years ago is now flourishing, and it is an honor to share this miracle with you. And I am doing it for a reason. As we stand here, a few days after the anniversary of Kristallnacht, the night when synagogues were burning across Europe and our people were suffering, I want to say clearly, those who wanted to destroy us did not succeed. And it is especially thanks to people like you from overseas, because you are helping us to rebuild what was destroyed. Every partnership, every friendship, every visit, every prayer, every act of support, there are stones in the foundation of a renewed Jewish future at the heart of Europe. When I look at our community in Prague, children dancing on Shabbat, including my own 6-year-old son and 2-year-old daughter, families learning Torah, people singing, laughing, crying together, celebrating happiest occasions, hugging each other after every Shabbat service, or even mourning together. I see the gates of that cemetery that I was mentioning opening again. I see life choosing to return. Especially during these challenging times for Jewish community all around the world, it is important to remind ourselves that Jewish story is not only about what was broken. Jewish story is mainly about what we dare to rebuild, about the keys we managed to find, and about the gates we dare to open, and about the friendship and the ties among ourselves, about the support that we support each other all around the world, each other. And therefore, let me conclude with saying together with all of you, loud and clear, Am Yisrael Chai. Shabbat Shalom.